guys, in today's video I'm sharing minimal dump and go crock pot meals that you can also do in the slow cooker that are budget friendly and perfect for fall. I'm Elizabeth from howgoodnessgrows.com, where I share about creating home, feeding the family, and wholesome living. I would love for you to consider subscribing, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up so I know what ideas to share with you. Let's head to the kitchen. So the first slow cooker meal is broccoli cheese soup, and I served this with a side of that French bread from my last grocery haul that my family loves. It was so good. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is chop up your broccoli florets pretty small. I kind of did a rough chop, but I think I could have done it even smaller, so try to get it pretty fine. And then you're gonna wanna go ahead and dice up your onion, again, pretty fine, as fine as you can get it. And what you could do is you could saute the onion in some butter. If you're doing it in the Instant Pot, you can put it on saute mode first and saute that first, because then I think it would be a lot softer more quickly. Mine took a long time to get soft because I didn't do that step. So if you saute it first with the garlic and maybe some butter, that would be perfect. So squeeze in your garlic, and then I'm just adding in some milk. And then to make it even creamier, I'm gonna add in heavy cream as well. And just dump that into the pot. Of course, my daughter is helping me again. So if you guys don't know, I'm actually a 24-year-old mom of 3. I'm married, and me and my husband have 3 children that we homeschool. And as you can see, my daughter loves helping me cook. And poor girl, her eyes are actually burning from the onions, but she wanted to help cook so badly, she just sat there. So anyway, we're gonna throw in butter, salt, pepper, and I will have all these recipes linked down below so you can just click them. And then you also add in a full package of shredded cheese. And you could hand shred that, but I actually cheated and just used shredded cheese in a package, and it worked out fine. So then once that's slow cooked for about 8, 5, 7, 6 hours, however long you want to slow cook it, I just popped it in my blender and gave it a few pulses. You could do this in the food processor or with a hand blender, or not at all. But I just thought making it a little bit more creamy and not as chunky, since I cut the broccoli a little bit bigger, I thought this would make it really good. So I just did that, and then I added it back to my slow cooker. The next thing is optional, but you could either thicken it up with a little bit of cornstarch and water, like cold water that you mix together, and add that to the soup, or you can do what I did, and I just took a couple tablespoons of flour and mixed that into a little bit of the hot soup and dumped it back in and just let it, sit there for just a second, and it thickens it up just a little bit, and it doesn't taste like flour at all or anything. It just makes it a little more thick. So I just ladled this up in a bowl, and then I topped it with some more of that shredded cheddar cheese. And they actually say that you can put Parmesan in the soup, but I just left it out. I just do what I have, what's easy, what I think we'll like, and I'm not afraid to, skip an ingredient in a recipe or add something that they didn't say. So this was absolutely delicious. My kids went crazy for this soup, especially with bread dipped in it. It was just like Panera. It was so delicious. The next meal is slow cooker honey garlic chicken and vegetables. This was equally delicious, and you could serve this over rice, especially if you have like microwavable like rice and quinoa or something. That would be so easy just to serve alongside with this. But it was fine on its own because it has the meat, the carrots, the onion, and potatoes, so it's a full meal by itself. So the first thing I'm doing is just chopping up my carrots. I gave them a rinse, and I don't peel my carrots very often. I don't think it's an issue. So I'm just giving them a rough chop. You want to leave them pretty whole, like you would do in a roast. This is almost like a chicken roast. That's how I thought of it. So chop those up and put them into your slow cooker, your crock pot, whatever you have that can cook it over a long period of time. You'll notice I'm using my Instant Pot and I just put it on slow cooker mode. It's the easiest thing. It's like 2-in-1. So then I'm just washing my red potatoes, and I'm just using one bag of like the smaller red potatoes, not the full size ones. If you use the full size, you could just cut them in half, or cut them in quarters, I mean. So with the small ones, I just cut those in half, and that was perfect. Really, I probably could have left them whole, but I just decided to cut them in half. So once you're done chopping or slicing your potatoes in half, just throw that in as well. And next, we're gonna make the best part of this dish, the delicious sauce. And my kids, of course, wanted to help. They saw ketchup out and had to, help out. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is add 1/3 of a cup of honey, about a tablespoon of garlic, because you really wanna taste that fresh garlic. And I use the squeeze tube because I'm a mom and I don't have time to chop garlic. So there you go, squeeze tube. Okay, the next thing is 1/2 cup of soy sauce, but I used 1/2 cup of coconut aminos because I don't like to eat soy that much. So coconut aminos, and it was so good. And then I added 1/4 cup of ketchup. And because I use coconut aminos, it's sweeter than soy sauce. It's almost like teriyaki sauce. So I did go lighter on the honey than what was called for in the recipe. So you could just kind of do it to taste. And then we finish it up with a teaspoon of dried oregano. I was laughing at this part so much because you can see all my kids' feet on the countertop while we're making dinner. That's real life, people, so sorry. Okay, so just give that a mix up, and you can see how delicious and rich that sauce is. This sauce was so good. You could put anything on it, or anything in it, and it would taste delicious. So just mix that up. It tasted like a restaurant meal, and it was so much healthier because you know what's going in it, not like a ton of soybean oil or whatever. So then I just threw some defrosted boneless, skinless chicken thighs that I had in the freezer from Costco. I just threw a few of those on top of the potatoes and everything. It doesn't really matter because we're gonna mix everything together anyways. So just put those into your pot. And then top it with that delicious honey garlic glaze. Oh, it was so good, you guys. Scrape that bowl out. Get all of it, okay? You don't want to miss out. It's so good. Also, you could serve this with some sesame seeds on top, and that would be really good. So now I'm just going to toss that all together so that everything's coated and that sauce is kind of evenly distributed. And I don't add any water to this, any water, any chicken stock, nothing. And it had a ton of liquid when it was done. Like, it was moist and flavorful and delicious. So don't add any liquid. It's perfect just like this. Next, we're gonna cover it, and I cooked this for the whole day. I just put it on slow cook, and then I cooked it for, I think 8 hours. And it was so tender and delicious. Look at that. It was the perfect fall meal. The next meal is slow cooker creamy chicken tortilla soup, and I am gonna make this all the time. This is one of those recipes that you're never gonna wanna stop making in the fall. It is so good. So first I just defrosted some chicken thighs that weren't exactly defrosted in the microwave and threw those in, and then I added the chicken stock and a bag of frozen corn, and I used the whole bag, which I think is more than the recipe calls for, but it was so good. I loved how thick it was too. So then, of course, you have to add in some squeezed garlic. I'm sorry if that kind of grosses you out. And then taco seasoning, which I didn't have, so I just mixed up some chili powder and cumin and whatever else. And then the recipe also calls for a can of green chilies, but I knew that would be too spicy for my kids, so I substituted that with a can of diced tomatoes that I just drained out some of the juice from. So put the lid on your slow cooker, and I slow cooked this for about 7 hours, I think. And when it was done, I was trying to scoop the chicken out so I could shred it up, and it was so tender and falling apart I could barely even get it out. It was like bobbing for apples. I just could not get it out, but you can see as I put it on the plate, like it just falls apart. It was so good. I can't believe I'd never made this before. It was one of my favorite meals. So see, I just kind of broke it up with a fork, and it's so easily shredded. Oh, this was so delicious. So to shred up your chicken and throw it back into your pot. And then here comes the creamy part. So you let the whole thing cook before you add the creamy products at the end. And I don't know why, but it just makes it perfect. I guess because nothing gets curdled or gross. I don't know. And oh, fail. A ton of shredded mild cheddar cheese, and stir that up. It looks like a lot of cheese, but I actually use half of what the recipe called for. And then you also want a cup of sour cream. And they say to add 1/4 of a cup of cilantro, but my family doesn't love cilantro. I do, but they don't. So I left that out. And it was equally as delicious, I'm sure. It was not missing a single thing. It was so good. You can see the cheese. I mean, this was a cheesy soup, you guys. Adding some crushed blue corn tortilla chips on top and some shredded cheese. Make tons of this because you can keep it in the fridge and eat it for a day or two, and it just gets better and better.
Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys are enjoying my family's recipes. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.